huine. Kia tau te rangamārie, kia whakatapua tātou me ngā mea. E whakapono ana tātou haumi e, hui e, taiki e. Greetings of the day to the whānau gathered here. Let peace be with us, and may we respect each other and what we believe, bind together, gather together, united. And this is, I don't know if you're following the news much these days, but man, isn't this a relevant karakia for our time? Okay. And this is a whakatauki. So he taonga ronganui te aroha ki te tangata. Goodwill towards others is a precious treasure. Yes, indeed. So just the housekeeping, which many of you are no doubt very familiar with. So housekeeping, just keep muted. And we are recording, and it will be available to be shared with you. This is about connecting together, inspiring and uplifting each other. I find since I've been part of this group, that has definitely been something that's happened for me, so I hope that continues to happen for you too. And if you have any sort of ideas, thoughts, gems or questions, pātai, just put them into the chat. Anna and I will try to keep abreast of that. Good morning, Michelle. So, from Christchurch, another Pia Lena. And we'll be keeping a record of those too, and they'll help us guide our next webinar. We're always sort of talking about, okay, what should we do next? So any ideas, gratefully received. So here's our agenda for today. So obviously, welcome and introduction. I'm going to hand over to Ants very shortly. We're going to have a bit of a chance to korero, and then we'll finish with our karakia whakamutunga. So, you might know us. I'm Michelle Wishart from Cluster 5, Waitakere RTLB, as we are, in West Auckland. And I will just say now that Fiona Harkness is in absentia today. She had another appointment. And then I'm now going to hand over to the lovely Anna down in the deep south, and who will pass on to Ants, who'll get going. Over to you, Anna.
Tēnā katoa katoa, everybody. I am in Te Anau at the moment. It is snowing, but looking forward to what Ants is going to impart his wisdom on declarative language today.
Ants, over to you.
Kia ora, everyone. Call Anthony Sanford Toku Ingoa. I'm really looking forward to presenting on declarative language to you this morning. I'll look out the window. It is pretty sunny here in Otatahi, although cold. And my office is a little bit cold, but I know through the presentation it will get a lot warmer. All right.
Moving on then.
Yes. So, just want to start with the purpose. So, declarative language is about bridging that theory to practice gap. So, theory to practice is about referring to the process of applying theoretical knowledge to real world situations. So today I'll be referencing Linda Murphy. She wrote the Declarative Language Handbook in 2020 during the pandemic. And that was timely. I did listen to her last week on a podcast, and she mentioned that she wrote it during that time because, as you know, people were at home, we were isolated, and declarative language was a way to go. So that's just a bit of background there. Also, that second point, we'll be drilling down into the neuroscience. Very important to look at that around declarative language. And I also will be contrasting that with imperative language. And just before we continue, I just want to shout out to my colleagues, especially you, Michelle, well, also Anna, but Michelle, it was like, you know, how you do a colouring in competition. My slides were pretty good, but using that analogy, I'd sort of coloured over the line. So what Michelle had done in the weekend was just tidy it up a little bit. So yeah, I just want to mahi out to you, Michelle. All right, thank you. Okay, so what is declarative language? So yeah, that first bullet point is most important. So it's a communication style that focuses on sharing of information, observations, feelings, or thoughts without demanding a specific response. That's really important. So declarative language is a compassionate way of communicating. It's a very thoughtful language style that helps with social and learning challenges. And yeah, declarative language is about sharing of experiences. And yeah, it's promoting a comment or statement about our observations. And with declarative language, there's no correct or incorrect response, okay? And with it, you are inviting a response without requiring one, okay? Not trying to get something from somebody. So declarative language, and Linda Murphy talks about this in many YouTube clips that she's presented on and podcasts. It's about giving back to someone, having that positive intention, not trying to get something, which imperative language, as it points out in that second bullet point, promotes. So imperative language, it gives direct commands or instructions, often telling someone what to do. And I really like that last little comment on the side there. Declarative language, at the heart of it, invites ākonga to notice, reflect, and respond at their own pace. Yeah, with declarative language, it's about trying to promote another perspective. It can also be about highlighting a problem and not offering a solution. So, for example, a declarative language statement around that, promoting a problem, there's paint on the floor. All right. You're not trying to solve how to get the paint off the floor. So yeah, it can be very short and concise statement. With declarative language, it is hard for educators to get their head around declarative language, because I think educators naturally, we like to question, we like to prompt around learning, don't we? So it doesn't come naturally, I don't think, for educators. All right. Yeah. This next slide really unpacks a whole lot of benefits. You can read there the many benefits. I mean, the first one there, it's promoting ākonga voice. It's help building that whanaungatanga. The second point there, that balance of power, is really important. It's power with, it's not power over. Declarative language is about power sharing. Imperative language is power over. You're trying to get something from somebody. It promotes that curiosity and wonder. There's many other there. And I guess, we're here for Te Whare Whakaruruhau. Go down to point number 6 there. It promotes a sense of connection and safety for our nervous systems and our brains. Really important. I just want to pick up on the point number 7. It can lower cognitive demands. Yes, it can, but it can also actually increase cognitive demands if we don't get the declarative language statement right, or for example, we don't give the person we're speaking to enough information. All right, I'll talk about that a little bit further on. Yeah, I just want to jump down to number 9, where it says helps ākonga access their episodic memory. So what that is focusing on successful past experiences as a way to keep ākonga regulated. All right, so it's delving into those past experiences. So, for example, let's think transition to high school. So you might say something to a student who is in year 8, and they've had visits into the high school, and they've got that anxiety about going in, because let's face it, we all have anxiety about going into high school. You think back to your own experience. So, for example, you might say something like, I know you haven't been at the school for a while. You were able to go from class to class on the first visit. You said to me you enjoyed the trip. So that episodic memory is about, yeah, as I say, delving into that past experience. You can do it on with your kids at home. So declarative language is used extensively in the parenting space. So you might use a declarative statement like, you know, one of your children might have anxiety about going to a new restaurant, for example. So you might say, I know this restaurant is different, but it reminds me of the one we visited a month ago. So you spot what you're doing there with the focus on episodic memory is spotlighting similar patterns and to be less frightened by differences for that person that is in front of you. Okay. Thanks, Michelle. All right. So as one of the purpose statements said, it is about keeping ākonga in their window of tolerance. Okay. So what the window of tolerance is that parasympathetic part of the nervous system. It's on that slide, it's the green part in the middle. It's that sense of connection and safety. And by promoting declarative language statements, we are intending to keep ākonga in their window of tolerance in that middle space, but also trying to increase that window of tolerance too. When we use imperative language, which is more the direct commands and comments, we run the risk, I guess, of them going into the flight or fight hyperarousal state, which is the top one, that sense of threat. Yeah, and the bottom one, students or adults for that matter could go into that hypoarousal state, which is that withdrawing within themselves, that dissociation state. So yeah, as I say, imperative language, it's more likely to activate that flight, fight, freeze response, which we don't want in that classroom space, especially those students who've had trauma experiences and they have very sensitive nervous systems, and their neuroception, their radar is on high alert all the time. Declarative language also helps students feel competent. It helps activate their own thinking rather than being told what to do. So they feel connected and understood. So that window of tolerance is a really good graphic, I believe. Thanks, Michelle. All right, this next slide just really follows up from the last one. Yeah, as you can see there, when the nervous system is activated on the left, we can have increased heart rate, we can have the blood moving really quickly through and away from our digestive organs. We can have shaking, we can have fast breathing and so on. So we can have sweating. There's a physiological response. So yeah, and I really like the slide on the right there. This is from Linda Murphy's website, declarativelanguage.com. Really great website. I urge you to have a look if you haven't already. So she's put there just a guide. You can see some declarative language statements there throughout, and I really like the fact that when the students or adults are in that flight fight, we really want to give that silence. Sometimes it's best not to say anything to give your child some space. And then, yeah, a little bit further down that temperature gauge, well, we can come in with validating feelings. So, for example, I understand why you are frustrated. So it can be just very short and sweet. The next box down is mirroring what they are communicating. So you might use a declarative statement. I'm just reading off the slide. You want more screen time and so on. And the green space there is when they're regulated. And thinking of Bruce Perry, the neurosequential model of education, it's when students are regulated and they're open for learning. So it's that reason part of his model, which is regulate, relate, reason. All right, so there's some examples of declarative language statements there. And as you can see, I have put quite a few examples and given you scaffolds throughout this presentation. So you can see these slide on the left. You're using words like notice, hear, think, forget, wonder, that type of language. And then on the right-hand side, I've just given you some more scaffolds. You can use them as sentence starters there, using for commenting or describing sentences. For example, that was a loud noise. And yeah, the bottom one, using statements to share your own thoughts or feelings, etc. Declarative statements, obviously, you have to be thinking about the age of the learner. One thing that Linda Murphy talks about is older students. You can bring in statements like I'm thinking, and getting them to reflect on their thinking. So yeah, obviously being age appropriate. So yeah, and when you get good at promoting declarative statements, and by all means, I'm not good, and you'll find this out later on in the presentation, it's about considering the supportive outcome of your declarative statement. So what I mean by that, is it a statement around, for example, regulation? And here's the example. Let's sit down here and breathe together. So the supportive outcome there is we want the student to regulate. This next one, I wonder what you could use next to finish the picture. So the supportive outcome for that one, the second one there, is around problem solving. So when you get good at this, because it does take practice, it's about thinking about the supportive outcome that you're trying to get across to your student or learner, or might be your partner. Can be applied to many settings. All right, thank you, Michelle. Okay, this next slide is about, now, if you've read my blog on CPS, I'm one to really celebrating mistakes. And what I like about declarative language is highlighting mistakes is really important. We need to celebrate mistakes, and I think modeling mistakes ourselves across to learners. And this links obviously to Carol Dweck's growth mindset theory. And we've got to observe students making mistakes. It's really important how we promote their resilience and problem solving. There's a tendency, isn't there, to come in and try and rescue someone when they make a mistake. Oh, you did this wrong. You didn't do that right. Let's get that sorted. And you probably think back to a situation you've done that. We've all done that. And we try and rescue the person. And that approach, that imperative approach, doesn't actually build problem-solving skills or resilience, as I say. So it's important to be a guiding light for the person. And I've just put some examples there on the slide that you can read that you may find useful to use. Thank you, Michelle. All right. This next slide is important. Now, just a warning, in 3 minutes, I'm going to get some crazy music going on. So that's a cognitive break for you people. Movement break. I'll probably put up my hand, I'll have a drink of water, and then we'll come back. But I'll start this. And I really like this visual, because, and it's from the website, declarativelanguage.com. So on the left there, you'll see some less direct inferential statements. So, for example, I see your coat on the hook. All right, it's nice, concise information. Look at the other, or the corresponding statement on the right. It says, I can see it is cold out today. Yesterday was like this too, and I remember you were glad you had your coat. If you'd like to bring it, it is on the hook. Now, Linda Murphy, who wrote the Declarative Language Handbook, got some pushback from people in the autistic community saying, look, declarative language, we don't get enough information. When you promote a statement like, I can see your coat on the hook, we actually get very anxious about that. Our nervous system, we get activated because we're wondering what do we need to do? So she talks about, yeah, it can be useful, especially for those students with pathological demand avoidance, which is a part of the autism profile, where those students with that, they struggle with direct commands and that. But the feedback that Linda has received is, give us more information, which is the examples on the right. So I just thought I'd give you that. You have to know your learner. That's the key with declarative language statements, knowing your learner at a deeper level. Otherwise, if they're a person who doesn't like those inferential short statements, you could get into difficulty with that. So it's knowing your learner and just knowing how much information is enough for them. Okay. All right. Okay. Right. I think we'll move on to the next slide. So just bear with me. I had a telephone call going in my office from not my mobile, but my landline. So I'll just put that back up. That's a bit unnerving as you're presenting. Right, here's the music. Sorry about that. They're all testing me here at the office. I had, as I say, I had the phone going off, the landline, and I've sorted that. Oh, all right. Just bear with me, it's going. Hang on. Right, now we'll go on to this next slide. So, yeah, this next slide I really like, and this is one of the slides that Michelle, she made it better. So thank you, Michelle. And as I said, yeah, colouring in the lines, which is really good. So speech bubbles there, cognitive verbs that we can use for declarative language, top left. There's some examples there. In the middle, observational words or words related to our senses. So focusing on noticing, seeing, hearing, smell, and feel. So for example, I notice everyone is ready for our story. I'll let you read the others. And then top right, we have words that emphasize uncertainty, possibility, and alternatives, such as maybe, might, perhaps, and so on. You can read there. So you might say maybe your friend wants to play too. We might go outside later. I'm not sure. So yeah, just giving you a lot of scaffolds, I think, this morning. So you, after this presentation, you can delve into it in your own time, because I know as adult learners, that's important. Okay, right. So the next one is, thank you, Michelle. Yeah, this is from a really good website. It's called annextcomeowl.com, and maybe Anna, if you don't mind just putting that into the chat so people can access that. So just a quick tip, as it says there, take a question you were going to ask and turn it into a statement instead. Try rephrasing any directions into an observation instead. So I've got an example here. So yeah, the key focus here, people, is focusing on sentence, phrase, statements. So instead of asking this question, and it's a age-old question, isn't it? What did you do at school today? And you probably get a grunt from, especially if you ask that to a teenager. I know I have done with my son. Oh, nothing or not much. You don't get a lot of information back from what did you do at school today compared with, and here's a declarative statement, I'm curious knowing about the best part of your school day today, and just leaving it at that, making sure that you've got enough take-up time and silence, because they will be processing that statement and allowing them to, respond. All right, so yeah, just I like that graphic because it's just some good reminders there too. All right, thanks, Michelle. So you're probably wondering when to use declarative language. Well, actually, you can use it most of the time. There's no sort of hard and fast rule with this. Use it with all ākonga in individual, group, and whole class setting. So it works very well across te tuapapa. You can use it when students are either inside or outside their window of tolerance. Obviously, you wouldn't use it when they are completely dysregulated in that flight, fight, and they're in that red zone of that temperature gauge, okay? They just need space, they need that silence and space to be able to down-regulate. You can use it when you're connecting with students at any time, and declarative language is awesome for using for those learning moments to access higher order thinking. And on that slide earlier, we outlined all the benefits. One of the benefits was around executive functioning. It's really good for that because it promotes problem solving, it promotes inferential skills and so on, and many others within that umbrella of executive functioning. Okay, thanks, Michelle. Actually, just before I show this video, I just want to probably just spend a little bit more time. It is very useful to use declarative language with neurodivergent ākonga, students with ADHD, autism, students with expressive language difficulty. It tends to be a game changer, declarative language, for these students because it helps them process language. Imperative language is important in certain situations. For example, thinking about safety considerations or boundary setting. If someone at home was just about to put their hand on the stove, you wouldn't come in with a declarative language statement. Oh, I notice your hand is on the stove. That would be inappropriate. You'd say, get that hand off the stove. So you'd be very imperative in that situation. Or if a little one was crossing the road and didn't look left and right and see the cars. Okay, so yeah, safety and putting boundaries. So another example of that, where you might use, for example, a declarative language statement, then that declarative language statement hasn't landed with the student. In other words, they haven't listened or they haven't followed what around your statement. So then you might bring in after that an imperative language statement. Now, I'll give you an example. So here's the declarative language statement. I want you to walk right now because the ground is slippery and not safe. Okay, and the student keeps doing it. You give them that take-up time, that silence, so they can process, and they keep doing it. Then you think, right, I need to jump in. The child keeps running, then you come in with an imperative, please stop, because you can see that they're going to fall over. All right. So that's an example around boundary setting. All right, now this video that we've got on the screen is a really good one, and it's by, well, Linda Murphy, she's on the right there, and we've got Sean McCormick. He is a executive functioning coach, and I invite you in your own time to have a really good look at this video. It's a good one, and what we're going to show today is them talking around about educators using declarative language. It goes for about 2 or 3 minutes. So, Michelle.
The relationships that it can foster. I wanted to ask about teachers, because I think it's really important that teachers understand declarative language. However, I know sometimes they're working in classrooms of 20 to 30 kids, and it may be hard to use this language, which calls for a bit more patience and less kind of results in the moment, right? It's giving more opportunities to grow and think independently. What are your thoughts on how teachers can take the declarative language work that you've pioneered and implement this into the education system?
Yeah, I think, as with all of us, the first step is just self-awareness of our own communication and owning it. So, of course, there's times where teachers need to ask questions or maybe need to be more directive, but there's probably lots of times that they could be declarative that they're not. So all I ever ask is just people start to think about their speaking style, think about their communication, and just, again, as I said before, just take it one exchange at a time. Is this an opportunity that the teacher maybe doesn't feel as rushed, that they could allow for a little more processing time, and they could make that comment instead of the directive. And chances are, even if it's one of the kids that I'm working with, if they might not respond right away to that declarative, their classmates might. And then that also provides additional just contextual information that our learner can then visually reference. So they're still having the opportunity to just integrate greater pieces of information. And then the teacher maybe can scaffold from there as needed. But I think it's really hard, especially if you're starting out, to be declarative all day, every day. And I would never expect that. I really do think that the little moments build up over time. And it's just, seizing on the opportunities when they're upon you and just going for it. And I find that, again, like when people start to use the speaking style and they notice how effective it is, it just reinforces like our desire to keep going, or just our ability to say, oh, you know what, it didn't take that much longer than the directive and it felt a whole lot better. So I'm going to keep doing it.
Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, a lot of key points there that she's talked about. And one thing that I want to add to what she was saying is try and pick a moment in your week where you can come in with declarative language. But the key thing is, people, that you need to be regulated yourself. This is a double whammy, okay? What I mean by that is adults, by promoting declarative language, are going to get or receive the benefits of promoting a declarative language statement, because it's going to keep you also in your window of tolerance, and you're going to be regulated. Okay, that's the great thing about it. When we start using imperative after imperative and direct commands, we notice our nervous systems, that tension in our body, our muscles, our shoulders, our clenched fists, whatever it is, that we start becoming activated, and we start moving out of that window of tolerance. So yeah, it's a double whammy here. We're going to get benefit, but also the learner or student or person in front of us will get benefit as well. So yeah, as I say, have a look at that video. It is a great video. Some really good content in it as well, other than the content that you've seen. All right, thanks, Michelle. All right, this next one, and Thank you to Michelle for making this most impressive on the slide. This is a great little quote. It's a desired outcome from Linda Murphy. Create a situation in which a child can feel empowered to get the help they need rather than shamed by their vulnerabilities. Okay, so yeah, when we use that imperative language approach, we're trying to get a direct response from the student. Quite often, we're trying to manipulate them by getting the answer that we want. Quite often when we promote an imperative statement or question, we know the answer already. And the beauty of declarative language, we don't know the answer because we're giving ākonga space and time to, feedback and to share their thoughts and ideas. So I really like that quote. I think it's over to you at the moment, Michelle, with this awesome video that you're going to show. You're on mute.
Yeah. Thanks, Ants. Yes, so thanks, Ants, for that. So I'm about to show you a little video. It's a very small snippet of an interview that I did with one of the students I have been working with, and she's quite highly complex, and one of her key things is she actually doesn't like going to class. And this is just a little snippet of her just talking about teachers that get her. I guess it just paints a little bit of a picture, and it actually reminds me what she says coming up, where my daughter was when she was at high school, the only interaction that she had with the school principal was him coming up to her and saying, "Why are you wearing that jacket? That's not school uniform." And so that whole imperative statement. And then when she came back, she said, "Man, he's such a dick, da 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 da," and that there was no trust there then. The trust was all gone. And so this little bit just made me realise how important the building of trust is. And the other thing I was thinking, Ants, as you were talking, and probably all of us, is that when you develop those attuned relationships with the kids that you work with or you have worked with, I think you probably find yourself becoming more declarative because you sort of start to hear what they need, as Ant said, know the learner, and you start to know them. So you probably find yourself quite well on the way, I suspect. But anyway, enough of my yakking. I'll just play this little. She's just so gorgeous. And I have got consent from her and her mum, by the way.
That's something that'll calm me down a bit more when I have support.
And food.
Yeah, and food.
But also you've got your teaching assistants, Melissa and Lisa, also you.
Yeah.
So they're probably, if the next question, like if the question is about a time when a teacher really got you or understood you.
Yeah.
So what does that look like?
I feel like that is like communication.
Yeah.
When I open up to them, I tell them everything because I trust them. And for many other teachers, I don't really do that. I don't communicate with them.
So how does the trust happen? That's a really key thing for teachers.
For trusting, for me, is kind of just like being nice to them and being there for them when they need you to be there, or not like getting grumpy at them when they're upset. When they're upset, you need to be there for them and listen to them and communicate instead of like yelling at them and screaming at them and be like, "Oh, well, you need to get back in the class." Like,
yeah.
No, you need to help them.
Yeah. So listening, I've heard you talk about this before, that listening, right? It's like being listened to.
Yeah, being heard.
You can see that was just a very brief thing. She's experienced a lot of that. Why are you out of class? Get back into class, and for her whole schooling. And she just doesn't respond to it. And that being heard and just being spoken to kindly, which I think declarative language is a kind language, is really important. Yeah, she said so many pearls of wisdom, this young woman, which maybe we will share at a later stage. But anyway, back to you, Ants. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Lovely video. Which you
Just go to the next one.
All right, so yeah, just another quote by Linda Murphy that you can read there. So yeah, promoting that feeling of competency is really important. I can do this. That's the messaging, that declarative language. promotes, I believe. So really nice quote there. Thanks, Michelle. Okay, this next slide. So yeah, how should I deliver declarative language statements? So you should always have a positive intention with any student. Okay, that's important. The next, just want to add to that. Linda Murphy talks about be giving rather than trying to get something. So we can be giving where we align our verbal and non-verbal communication. And it probably links to the second bullet point there, that tone of voice that you use. It's got to be curious, empathetic, open, and inviting. I remember going home about a year ago with my son, and I thought I had a really awesome, calm, attuned tone of voice, but obviously I didn't. I said something to him. I can't remember what I said to him, but he goes, "Dad, why are you shouting?" And it was just my tone, I think, was a little bit clipped, and he really picked up on that. So it's those nuances around tone of voice, which is really important. And having that open body language is so important, because it sends the message that we're open, that we can guide the student, we're in tune with them. And yeah, it's also another key point is that it's the quality of communication over quantity. We don't want to overload students with far too much stuff. You think to anyone who's just giving you too much, you really start becoming activated. So yeah, as I said earlier, it's about knowing your learner and knowing how much information is appropriate. Yeah, and so what you say and how you say it is important, all right? Pacing means slowing down your delivery of information, and Linda Murphy talks a lot about that. You can see that on that second part of the slide. And that wait time is so important, giving them space. Now, when Linda Murphy started out using declarative language statements, and she says this in her in the many videos that she's presented, she gave the learner 30 seconds. She'd say a declarative language statement and then give 30 seconds to respond. And what she found was they would respond after 15, let's say 15 seconds. So they would respond there, but she would give up to 30 seconds and just allowing that processing time, which is so important. So silence, people, is your friend. Don't be scared of it. Embrace it. Now, processing time can be also over a course of days. So you might say a declarative language statement like, and this would be with older students, okay? I've been thinking about you wanting to, I'll use you, Michelle, as an example. Michelle, I've been thinking about what you said about you wanting to do your project with Anna. Okay. So yeah, it's I guess it's sending that message that we're not focusing on today, but you're projecting into the future. So yeah, you can get quite a lot of nuanced declarative language statements. So that's just an example. But the key part is how we process information as humans is different across that spectrum. And you'll see this across your RTLB students as well. All right, let's go on to the next one. So, as I said earlier, people, it's about celebrating mistakes. But it's also keeping in line and thinking about, well, actually, my declarative language statement there didn't land that well. And it might be that you think about what Bruce Perry says in terms of that neurosequential model of education. You know, you're going to have that regulation, relate, reason. If you're going into that communication and using a declarative language statement and you're not fully regulated or the student's not fully regulated, it's probably going to turn to custard. Okay, so it's it's just making sure that you've got that regulate, relate, reason, and thinking about that whole brain science. So that's a really good slide to look at. All right, if we just go on to the next one. And I really like this slide. This is developed by Linda Murphy. So she talks about many miscues that can happen. It could be that, as I say, you haven't given enough processing time. You've jumped in too quickly, but you know that you've given enough processing time. If the student has an aha moment and they feed back to you, all right, you know that your take-up time has landed. It might be attention, that you haven't, you've delivered a declarative language statement and you haven't got their attention, or you're too far away from them. Okay, so you need to minimize that and maybe move in closer proximity. Yeah, pausing and wait. The declarative statement, for example, I have something really important to tell you. Please let me know when you're ready to listen. Are good declarative language statements to get that attention. As it says there on the slide, comprehension, it might be that your child doesn't understand what you've said, or you've given too much information to the student. It could also be because you've just started using declarative language statements and it's not habit forming for the student. In other words, they're not used to it. So they're not used to that speaking style and they just need more time to experience it. Okay, so yeah, some really good key pointers to consider there. All right, this slide here, I've just put some questions together. Now, these aren't my questions. Within our cluster 33, we had Madeline Armstrong-Wilcox from the Neurodiversity and Education Project. And I was in a group and she promoted these questions. And I thought they were good coaching questions. And you could use these with educators, but the proviso is that you've done some really good groundwork with educators around declarative language. So you wouldn't go in cold with these questions. As I say, you do the groundwork and they have an understanding of what declarative language is and they're using it. So then you can come in with those types of questions. All right, thank you. Okay, so we are now going to reflect on our own communication style. So we're going to have a kōrero. So the key points here, I'm wondering what language style you tend to gravitate towards, use most, and what work or social context do you find yourself using declarative or imperative language statements? Now, I'm going to jump in with my own example. I know that I'm good in the workspace using declarative language statements, and they do happen quite naturally for me in the workspace. Okay, it's probably where I feel most comfortable and regulated. However, what I've noticed is when I go home, I default, and it's a bad habit, I default to imperative statements. And I've been doing far too many of them with my son. He's 16 and I get a lot of pushback and he says, "Oh, Dad, you're just nagging me, you're doing this." And I came to the realization a month or two ago that I was just nagging him through my imperative language statements. So what I've tried to do now is just land some declarative language statements. It's a work in progress, and it sometimes lands, but it sometimes doesn't. Okay, and I'm trying to give him that time, that take up time to respond. So that's me. So my work on is at home mainly. And I think it's because I'm rushing around being busy. And that's a real barrier to promoting declarative language, being too busy. So think of the morning, you know, you're trying to get out the door really quickly and you just, oh, put that over there, do this and do that. yeah, that's when we default to imperative language statements. When our mind is full, we're starting to get activated and we're just busy. We're time poor. We need to get out the door. Might be to school, for example. So I'm wondering if anyone would like to sort of feedback and share any of their wonderings around their use of declarative language or what they notice about your own language style. So maybe if we just take it off.
Yeah.
Last,
So do you want me to go back to the slide?
yeah, if that's okay. We haven't got too much further to go, people. Really appreciate your.
Yeah. So the next one. Oh, sure, I've gone too far back.
And just the next one. So yeah, I've just put in, I think my first blog around trauma-informed practice, when I talked about regulate, relate, reason with Bruce Perry, I said in there one visual or one video at a time. So I've done that here. Really good YouTube clip, the top one. The blog is really good. As I said earlier, Linda Murphy did get some pushback from the autistic community. I invite you to read that blog. It's a really good one. And the podcast, the neurodiversity podcast, is a really good summary there. So you might want to go into that. And as I say, looking at declarativelanguage.com, a lot of great resources on there from Linda Murphy, who is the guru. So thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Ants. So Anna, I think it's over to you now.
Gosh, Ants, thank you so much. The amount of effort that you've put into those slides to support us all with our mahi around declarative language, so appreciate it. Looking at what's next for Te Whare Whakaruruhau, we invite you to connect. So please invite a colleague or someone new to the PLN to join our next webinar. We aim to inspire, so please feel free to check out Linda Murphy's declarative language website, which you would have found in the chat. And the handbook, and then promote any strategies or ideas and resources to colleagues or educators that you work with. One of our other aims of RTLB Aotearoa is to uplift, so feel free to try a declarative language statement on a colleague, school staff member or ākonga that you work with. Personally, I might even try one at home with my little people. What did you notice and what was their immediate response? And our next session, the link is there on the page, is Thursday the 9th of October between 8:30 and 9:30, and we look forward to seeing you all there. So if you're not connected to RTLB Aotearoa yet and the Professional Learning Network, Michelle is going to pop the next slide up with the links and the QR code there, and feel free to join our Te Whare Whakaruruhau group on the RTLB Aotearoa webpage as well. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us, and Michelle will close with karakia.
Yeah, thanks, Anna. I just noticed on our Facebook page that I think we're up to 698.
I think it's 700, and I think there might be a wee prize going out.
Oh, really? Okay. Wow. Because that's pretty amazing considering I think there's about 1,100 of us all. So I think that's pretty impressive, actually.
So Fee mentioned that number 700 was going to get a book from our collection. So we'll see. I'm sure she'll announce that shortly on the group page.
Right. Okay, so thanks everybody. I just reiterate my colleagues' thoughts. Thanks so much for joining us on this morning. It's now started raining here. I hope you go well into this week and try some declarative statements. So I was finished with our karakia. Kia taute manaakitanga ki runga ki tēnā o tātou. Kia piki te ora, kia piki te maramatanga, kia hoki pai atu, kia hoki pai mai. Tuturu whakamoa ki tina, haumie, huie, taikia. Settle the care and protection upon each of us. May the health and understanding grow. Return well to others and ourselves. Hold fast to your authenticity. Be firm, join together, gather together, bind as one.